Update. Dad wants to do a memorial for my sister at my wedding, but I'd rather she wasn't mentioned. Original post. I know the title sounds bad. I was hoping people might be able to assess this objectively and give suggestions, especially if they've been at weddings with memorials before. Unfortunately for me, this is a trickier situation than I'd like because of who my sister was. I'm changing small details to make it harder to identify this situation if anyone I know happens across it. My younger sister passed away last year. She was an adult but young, and it was sudden. I don't want to go into too much detail, but she made some bad choices that contributed to her short life. She was also not well mentally. She had an extremely tumultuous relationship with my mom and me. Some ups, but mostly very nasty downs, especially during years when we tried to save her from herself. On the other hand, my dad was often idealized by her, and they had a better relationship. My fiancé did not have a good relationship with her either. Her final years and death were traumatic for our whole family. It's especially impacted my dad. Since she passed, my dad has made a point of eulogizing her at every family event we've had to remember her and make sure she was present. It's always been difficult for both my mom and me because I have a lot of intense, difficult emotions surrounding her and her passing. I always cry for hours, and I end up feeling downhearted and out of sorts for days after each one of these surprise memorial events. My dad will be the officiant at our wedding. It's very soon. I only recently learned that he plans to memorialize her during the ceremony and in his toast. I really don't want him to do this, but he's extremely resistant because he doesn't want to pretend like she was never here. I will admit that it is childish for me to feel bitter about someone who is no longer here, but growing up, I had a lot of events hijacked by her causing some incident, and now it feels like it's happening again, even when she's passed. If we had a better relationship, I might have been more okay with taking a moment to remember her, but my dad tends to lionize her and has a selective memory where he's forgotten everything bad. He was shocked when I said I wasn't comfortable with her being mentioned in a speech. Outside of my own baggage, my fiancé certainly doesn't want her mentioned. This is not just a my side of the family event like the previous memorials. I also fear it will bring down what's supposed to be a happy time and make the guests sad or uncomfortable. I want to try to compromise with him by having my mom, he and I wear yellow jewelry in discreet places to remember her. Yellow was her favorite color. But I'm not sure if he'd be okay with this because it's too secret. Long story short, how can I let my dad feel like we're honoring my sister's memory without upsetting my mom, my fiancé, and myself too much to enjoy the day? I'm at a loss, and it's hard for me to approach this objectively. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Respectfully, can you speak to him about how him mentioning her may be how he deals with his grief, but it's not how you're managing it? That he doesn't need to make his grief center stage? Can you also ask him maybe not to officiate? Then at least it's not in your ceremony. It's a delicate situation, but it is you and your fiancé's day, so you need to have it your way. My mother and I have both tried to talk about how we process grief differently, especially given how difficult our relationships with my sister were. That's part of why I wasn't expecting him to do this at this event, because he did it for my birthday, and I had to talk about how hard that was. Unfortunately, I guess I didn't make the impression that I thought I did. I don't want to ask him to step down as the officiant because I think that would really hurt him and cause more problems than just letting this happen. I just hope I can find some compromise that allows him to feel like he's not forgetting about his other daughter, without making me too depressed to be a good wife to my fiancé or hostess to my guests. It really messes with me when I think about her death too much. If your father can't find a level of pure joy and respect for you on your wedding day, he should not be officiating. Also, it is not just a day for you and your family, it is your husband-to-be's day as well. Don't allow him to continue her funeral at your wedding. Absolutely, it would be horrible for my fiancé. I can't let that happen. Just sucks to be in this situation, but I'll figure something out. Thanks to you and the others giving a reality check. May I ask how soon is very soon? I'm thinking it may be best to get another officiant despite the fact it would add more work to your plate last minute. You deserve to have the day you want and for all of the focus to be on you and your fiancé. Unfortunately, it's a matter of days. That's why I haven't just said he shouldn't officiate. Finding someone else this soon would be a bear. and the emotional turmoil of saying he can't officiate would, I think, make things even worse than letting him do the memorial speeches for a variety of reasons. He's also shown that he will just kind of do things to memorialize her, even when he's not in an official position, so I think that wouldn't really stop him if he were determined. That's why I'm hoping that I can find a compromise that's less obtrusive, so he doesn't feel guilty without literally calling everyone's attention to my sister's death. Edit. I need to go to bed, so I won't be replying further, but I wanted to thank the people who offered condolences and advice, and also those who were rightfully saying, "Girl, what are you thinking?" when I said maybe I should just let him do it. I've gotten a lot of great ideas for other ways of remembering people, not just my sister, and ways to handle it if my dad tries anyway. I'm having a serious discussion with him tomorrow, and if I get any hint that he's going to ignore my fiancés and my wishes, then we'll find another efficient. Wish I'd been smart enough to fully settle this issue months ago, instead of days from the wedding, but lesson learned about clear communication there. Thanks again. Now for the update. I received a number of requests for an update to this, so here we are. It's a good update, thankfully. I spoke with my dad the morning after making the post. I tried to emphasize that mentioning my sister's passing in detail at the wedding would be very difficult emotionally for my mother and me, would take away from my fiancé's, now husband's day, and would probably make the guests uncomfortable or saddened. He said he was resistant at first because he's been so afraid of my sister's memory fading away, but that ultimately he understood my concerns. He still wanted her present in some way that wouldn't take away from our day. I offered suggestions that people gave for ways to have her memory present. We decided to have a seat reserved for past loved ones at the ceremony and an empty seat with a name tag for her at the wedding party's table during the reception dinner. My dad was the officiant as originally planned, and he gave a beautiful speech at the ceremony and a heartfelt toast that was focused on the joy of the day instead of the sadness of the past. As far as I'm aware, everyone at the wedding had a wonderful time, and the only tears shed were happy ones. I know that there were multiple commenters who said my dad should be replaced as the officiant no matter what, but I'm glad I didn't do that. After the wedding was over, he gave me a big hug, crying because it meant so much to him that we trusted him to do the ceremony and how happy it made him to be such a big part of the wedding. It meant a lot to my husband and me too. Moral of the story: sometimes it takes a few tries to get it right, but honest and heartfelt communication between everyone involved won the day here. Thanks again to everyone who left advice, comfort, well wishes, and grandma hugs. I did not at all anticipate the interest in my post, but I'm grateful for everyone's comments, even if I ran out of time to reply to everyone. In the end, it was a perfect wedding, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. I'm glad they found the right way to frame it without minimizing his grief. Respectfully, the wedding day should not focus on her late sister. We love to see a good update. I remember an AITA post where a woman wrote about how she wanted her eldest daughter, who had died as a child, to be mentioned at her younger daughter's wedding, and the younger daughter flipped out. She said her entire life had been overshadowed by the death of her sister and she just wanted one day to be about her. I'd bet money that mother and daughter are no contact now. The golden child does not actually need to still be present. In many ways, it is much easier to make a deceased child into a saint, since the parents don't need to deal with a real person. I was at a wedding where the father of the bride used his speech to memorialize her late brother. It was incredibly uncomfortable. Instead of celebrating his daughter, the moment became all about the son who had passed. Guests couldn't stop whispering afterwards about how it felt like he was the favorite, and the whole thing turned what could have been a touching tribute into something sad and awkward, leaving people feeling sorry for the bride. I'm glad this bride didn't have to deal with that and got her happy day. At mine, my father-in-law talked about my wife for about 5 minutes, and then his time in the Navy for another 20, and what it means to be a true patriot. Her family was mortified, and most had their hands on their mouths, or were frantically making gestures to shut up already. He was essentially just trying to be selfish. Dude just couldn't write a speech. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad I'm changing my name and that I don't exist to be the reincarnation of his mother? 1 month before my mom discovered she was pregnant with me, my paternal grandmother passed away. When my parents found out I was a girl, my dad insisted they name me after my grandmother. As I got older, it became clear I look very much like my grandmother. As a kid, the references and comparisons were nice. I enjoyed hearing stories about my grandma. The comparisons were always complimentary. And then I hit my later teen years. I started doing some things that my family didn't agree with. I chose a college and career path that my dad was not fond of. He began comparing me to my grandmother, but not in a good way. He made it clear I had to live up to her legacy. He said I was going to let her down if I didn't do things the way she had. I was freaked out by this and refused to change what I was doing, and then it continued. I grew out of certain hobbies and was scolded by my dad and his brothers because your grandma enjoyed those. I'd say I didn't anymore, and they'd insist I had to like them because I was just like her. That honestly made me even more done with the hobbies. Before, it was because I simply lost interest and gained new ones. Now, it was because I didn't want to do anything she had, because clearly it'd be held over me for life. When I was in college, I cut my hair differently, and again, they had a freak out. It was at this point that I entered therapy and realized that for years, they had basically been treating me like the reincarnation of their mother. My dad had warped my entire identity to match his mother's. I started questioning if I really liked certain things, if my dad really loved me for me. So, I started exploring myself, trying new things. My dad continued to get upset. Potentially the biggest upset is when I started going by a shortened version of my name. My full name is Lorraine, but I started going by Rain. Some friends had called me this in high school and college as a nickname, but I fully embraced it. My dad and his brothers refused to call me that and would get upset if anyone did. Then I dyed my hair. I still look like her in the face, but my hair was constantly compared to hers, and I know it was a kick to my dad and uncles. I explained why I was doing all of this, and they called me dramatic, but the comparisons never stopped. Now I'm 27 and I'm getting married next year. My dad recently asked me if I was going to change my last name. I said yes. He begged me to keep it, because even though I go by Rain now, my full legal name is the exact same as my grandmother's. I said I wanted to have the same last name as my husband and any future children we share. I also told him I was using this as an excuse to change my first name legally to Rain. I'll keep my middle name, which again, I share with my grandmother. My dad was very upset and told me I was being spiteful. I said I'm not being spiteful. I'm trying to reclaim my own identity. I pointed out to him that I don't exist to be the reincarnation of his mother, and that maybe if he hadn't pushed the identity so hard on me, I wouldn't feel like I have to do this. He got even more upset and said maybe one day I'll understand how it feels when he's dead. He hasn't spoken to me in a few days, and my mom says I hurt his feelings. She feels like I shouldn't have told him I was changing my first name legally, and I shouldn't have said all of what I did. My fiancé is on my side, so I don't know what to think. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your father and uncles turned you into a walking memorial for your grandmother instead of treating you like your own person. Your mom is an idiot for allowing him to do this to you. People who turn their children into walking memorials and living monuments to their dead relatives suck. Tell your dad, don't worry, when you die I won't name anything after you. Not the a-hole. It's weird because he keeps hinting I should name my first son after him. My husband is also a junior, and we've both agreed that our kids will be receiving their own unique names. His family understands. My family is not happy that I won't use any of their names. I'm curious, what has your mom and her family thought about all this? Have they even tried to get them to stop comparing you to your father's mother? My mom would tell them not to compare me to her, but they didn't listen. She just thinks I'm being insensitive because I'm actually upholding the boundary. Her family respects me going by Rain and doesn't compare me to her. Some of them knew her and say she isn't worth the hero worship my dad and his brothers give her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my sister's family stay in my house? I, 25 female, bought my first house last year, after years of saving, budgeting carefully, and working 2 jobs to make it happen. It's nothing fancy, just a small 1-bedroom with a tiny living area. But it's mine, and I'm incredibly proud of it. Owning my own place has been one of my biggest goals, and finally achieving it felt like a huge step toward independence and stability. I'm single, child-free, and honestly not planning on starting a family anytime soon. Right now, I just want to focus on myself, traveling, enjoying my hobbies, and building the life I've worked so hard for. A few weeks ago, my older sister, 32 female, called me in a panic. She said their landlord had raised their rent unexpectedly and they couldn't afford it. She asked if she, her husband, and their 2 kids could stay with me just for a week or 2 until they found a new place. I love my sister and my nieces, but my house is really small. It barely fits me comfortably, let alone 4 more people. I explained that I simply don't have the space or resources to host them. She didn't take it well. She accused me of being selfish and heartless, saying I should at least do it for the kids. I told her I understood their situation and wanted to help in another way. I offered to lend her money for their rental deposit, with a clear agreement about repayment. But she refused the offer, saying I was choosing money over family. Then she started guilt-tripping me, reminding me how she used to take care of me when I was younger and that I owe her for that. Now I feel torn. I do feel bad for her and the kids, but I also value my privacy and peace. I finally have a home that's truly mine, and I don't think I should be pressured into giving it up, even temporarily. Am I the a-hole for not letting my sister's family stay at my place? Not the a-hole. Getting them out once they moved in might be a task. You offered them an alternative and they refused. Exactly my concern. I knew once they moved in, it would be hard to ask them to leave. Yeah, why would they leave if they have the option to stay with you rent-free? Basically, you have a house and she wants to make it hers because she thinks she deserves it more than you. Because it's not fair that the younger sibling can buy a house, but she can't. Not the a-hole. You offered a solution and she refused. End of story. Their emergency isn't yours to solve. I didn't really know what else I could offer them, just not staying in my house. Obviously, not the a-hole. Having boundaries doesn't make someone an a-hole. Plus, your house is clearly too small for that many people, even for just a week or 2. We all know 1 to 2 weeks equates to 6 months to a year. 6 months turned into 3 years for me. Am I the a-hole for being vulgar and not having sympathy for my dad's affair partner when he left her? To begin with, I'm fully aware that my dad is a scumbag. I love him, but I really don't like him much. I'm 19, he's 67, and my mom is 42. Yes, those are the right ages. My dad left my mom when I was 10 after cheating on her with a 25-year-old named Deborah. He's always made good money and, to his credit, paid spousal and child support without complaint. He was also a very present father. He showed up to every recital, every game, every school event. He took me on amazing vacations and even invited my mom on a few of them. Like I said, I love my dad, but I see him clearly. When my mom was 32, he started cheating with Deborah, her real name because screw her. She wanted to be a kept woman, and my dad wanted younger attention. His first wife had died when he was 27, and I honestly think that loss broke something in him. Ever since then, he's been chasing some impossible version of happiness, never satisfied for long. He dated constantly, then married my mom when she was 22 and he was 47. He got her pregnant right away, and that's how I came along, his only kid so far. Recently, though, karma made an appearance. Deborah had to undergo a double mastectomy, and my dad didn't handle it well. He stayed around for a little while, but then he bailed. Just left. From what I know, he isn't seeing anyone new, but Deborah is completely shattered. She tried reaching out to me, saying she was hurt and alone and didn't deserve to be abandoned like that. I laughed in her face. I told her that if she wanted sympathy, she should look between shit and syphilis in the dictionary. That's where she'd find it. Apparently, that wasn't enough humiliation for her because she actually called my mom to complain about me. My mom, being the saint she is, told me I didn't have to be rude and that breast cancer survivors deserve compassion. I get where she's coming from, but I don't agree. Deborah made her bed when she slept with a married man, and now she's shocked that he's the same kind of person with her. I saw this ending from miles away. How she didn't is beyond me. I don't feel sorry for her one bit. In my eyes, she's just reaping what she sowed. Yuck. Can't get past the age gap. Not gonna lie, he looks good for his age, but I know the reason young women like him, my mom included, is his money. Not the a-hole, but why is she calling your mom? Your mom is a better woman than me for simply picking up the phone because, She's been my stepmom for a long time. Her and my mom have a truce, I guess. If your mom put emphasis on you not needing to be rude, what she basically did was the most polite version of agreeing with you. My own mom did this when she was called to the school because my brothers said the Pope was an absolute prick. We went to Catholic school. She said, "Oh, I agree, he should not use crude words." Nothing about the opinion itself. Everyone happy. Anyway, not the a-hole. Good for her that she found some sympathy with the women whose family she wrecked. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not including my daughter's half-siblings in things with us and not getting them stuff? 10 years ago, I had a relationship with a woman who I did not know was already married with 3 kids. She never wore her wedding ring whenever she was with me, and she posted nothing on her socials. I guess I just trusted her and didn't check. Oh God, how stupid was I? I would absolutely have not even looked at her if I knew she was in a relationship, let alone married with kids. My mom cheated on my dad and destroyed our family, and I would have never intentionally done anything like that to anyone, ever. Eventually, she got pregnant just a couple of months into our relationship, and when she was in her 6th month, she sat me down, broke down, and explained everything to me. I was mortified and ended everything with her right then and there. I couldn't live with myself, so a few days later, I did some digging and found her husband. I told him everything. He absolutely deserved to know what his wife was doing behind his back. I kept apologizing to him and saying I had no idea she was married with kids, and he just thanked me for being honest and telling him the truth. Apparently, they had still been active, and he thought the baby she was pregnant with was his. They ended up going to counseling for the kid's sake, and they stayed together and kept the baby. When she was born, we did a DNA test, and she was mine. We ended up having 50-50 custody of her once she grew out of having to be breastfed. Her husband didn't hate me, but he absolutely didn't love me either, and he was distant with my daughter. He never got her anything or included her in any family vacations. Instead, she'd come stay with me. So in return, I never got any of her other kids anything, and that was fine with everybody until a couple of months ago. Back in July, I took my daughter, my wife, and my son on a 2-week family vacation to France and Italy, and we took the kids to Disneyland in Paris. My daughter knew about it for months beforehand, and she's a huge Disney princess fan, so she was so excited and talked about it all the time. Apparently, her half-siblings got jealous, and her mom tried convincing me to take them as well. I refused because 3 extra kids would be insanely more expensive, and I had absolutely no reason to take them in the first place. She kept calling me a greedy, selfish a-hole, and even offered to give me some money to take them, but I still refused because it wouldn't even cover the cost of 1 extra kid, much less 3. And again, it was a family vacation, and they're not my family. The vacation came and went, and they're still whining about it and making my daughter feel horrible about it when she's there. I'm consulting a lawyer currently to see if I can sue for more custody because of it. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. You need full custody. This situation and this woman are bad for the daughter. How will the current wife be? My wife loves my daughter and she loves her too. She's an awesome mom to our son too, and I'm going for full custody. Not the a-hole. Make your daughter's mother fully aware that had the roles been reversed, her stepfather would have happily left her behind. Your daughter's mother needs to suck it up. Although I would consider full custody. I am looking to get full custody. My daughter hates her mother's house, and they hate her. Get your kid out of there. Rooting for you. Pray for me. I'm doing everything I can, but screw the system. Next story. I was the other woman. I got what I wanted. Now I'm miserable. Well, honestly, I'm so embarrassed I'm afraid of writing this. But it seems like the only way I'll be able to fully realize what it has come to. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but it started out as the usual. Girl meets boy in a rocky relationship. He told me all the right things, and my stupid, insecure self thought that he was all that. Manly, unappreciated ex-Marine who has the weight of the world on his shoulders. We had so much in common it was scary. He knew just what to say and I ate it all up. Well, he left his girlfriend, treated me like a princess, came to live with me. I met his parents. They loved me. I met his friends. They adored me. I love the feeling of a happy home and having someone that actually helps and listens. Obviously, it started off in the worst way. I've never cheated, but I thought it would be different. I gave him everything she didn't, right? It was for about a year. Then slowly things changed. I've never looked through his phone. I don't have the password, but he gave it to me for a game and I opened Instagram. And there it was. Messages for gun bunnies, OF accounts, etc. Talking about how he was lonely. Photos, not nudes but showing off. And the worst, the deleted ones, with his ex, with another girl that I also know. I know what I'm in for. I should have known better, and I do. I haven't said anything. I acted like everything is absolutely fine. Something broke in me. I look at him funny now. I can't kick him out yet due to my financial situation, but I will take my time planning exactly what I will do. In the meantime, I will make his life a little more miserable, just enough to make him start questioning things. I've never done something for revenge. I don't usually even keep any ill will toward anyone. Those things just do us worse, but this time, it's different. He was there when my mother had a mental breakdown and tried to end me. He condemned everyone that didn't treat me right and told me how much more I deserve. I would have done anything for the high that he gave me, and now he did all of those things right back. I'm absolutely to blame, don't get me wrong. In no way am I trying to take that away. I did this to myself, and yet I'm the angriest and most apathetic I have been in my life. The fact that he played the victim, building me up just to do even worse, is something I can't comprehend. That is my truth off my chest. I won't do anything now. I already know I can fake everything until the time is right. It won't be anything to physically hurt him, but I will play the long game. I'm too embarrassed to tell this to my friends and my family is pretty much non-existent, so here it is. My husband left me for another woman. Kept saying he was going to leave her and come home but never did. Lie after lie. Now, 5 years later, his side piece has breast cancer, treatable, and has undergone chemo and radiation therapy. She will fully recover. He couldn't leave her, but didn't want her anymore, so he took to cheating again. The woman he left me for has no idea that she's being cheated on. Not my circus, but if you're with a man that was in a relationship when you met, then don't expect him to change. You're not that special to him. Yup. People say a man just needs to find the right woman, and then he'll be the man he needs to be. But the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and people can't magically break long-standing behavioral patterns. And if you're the side piece, you're rewarding their cheating behavior. The fact you're plotting revenge makes me doubt you've grown from this experience. What would you do? I know it's toxic. Had I read my post some time ago, I would have made the same comment. At this point, I hate myself as much as I hate him, and I'm stuck in this situation for the next months at least. I think my feelings will only get worse given the circumstances. Planning your exit in the shadows isn't revenge. It's smart. However, making his life miserable isn't necessarily the most healthy for you. Personally, I'd check myself out of the relationship. Don't be intimate with him. Don't make plans. Do things with friends instead. Don't act like everything is fine either. Let him go about his life, and you go about yours. As far as how you got together, it doesn't matter what his previous relationship was like. Doesn't matter what his sob story was. If he was unhappy, then he should have left before you ever got involved. Sadly for you, it's a live and learn situation. If they'll cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. That is whom he is, a cheater. Also, at this time I don't see a point in reaching out to his ex. She'd probably just tell you how they are still communicating, etc. Not to mention, doing so now may come back on you with him asking why you reached out. So unless you're ready to confront him, I'd leave it for now and do it after you end the relationship. She does deserve an apology for the pain you helped cause. So, I'm not good with confrontation, but he is. I know that if I just confront him, chances are that I will leave the confrontation feeling insecure and crazy. I don't feel stable enough to have a debate with him and actually be able to prove a point. I don't have evidence, and I'm sure he will delete whatever is left if he feels me pushing away. I don't trust myself in this situation. I'm afraid I'm going to be weak and let it go. My plan is, as soon as he goes away for work, usually for 5 to 6 weeks, I'll start to prepare the guest room for a flatmate to be ready when possible, and maybe even start looking for potential roommates. The lease is in my name and I can change the locks while he is away, but I will need the money for the next rents in case things don't go as planned. My rent is about 60% of my pay, so I'll need to make some arrangements to be safe beforehand. I don't think he will lay a hand on me. I grew up with an abusive dad and I don't get that from him. To be honest, if he does decide to do something like that, I'm done for. He is an ex-Marine and he had his toys. I don't know anyone who would be successful in restraining him. Well, there's a very low chance of this happening. He is more of a sob story / emotional manipulation type of a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize to my dad's wife because she felt let down I didn't make a grand gesture of embracing and accepting her at their wedding? My mom died when I, 21 female, was 12, and my dad met his wife when I was 15. He married her when I was 16. Not gonna lie, the day was kinda hard for me. It wasn't easy seeing my dad marry someone who wasn't my mom, but I loved him, so I made sure to smile and keep the sadness away from the day as best I could. Still, my dad knew, and he didn't push me to be more involved than I was. The wedding was small and low-key anyway, so there wasn't anything huge for me to do. Until a couple of weeks ago, everyone thought the day had been a success for my dad and his wife. But during a celebration to remember my mom, my dad's wife brought up a grudge she had held against me for not making a grand gesture of embracing or accepting her as my family and a mother figure at the wedding. Apparently, she thought I had something planned for the day that would make her feel welcome and wanted by me, and like she was loved. She had convinced herself it would happen and was let down when it didn't. She said she felt even worse when I didn't mention anything about it after their wedding. She first brought it up as a throwaway comment about grand gestures not being my thing for others when I made something for my mom's grave. My dad asked what she meant, but she was like, "Oh, nothing, nothing." I was confused by it too, but we moved on. Then when we were having dinner, those of us who knew my mom said something about her, and I said that I'd always love her and wish she was here to see the woman I've become. Then my dad's wife made a more direct comment that, clearly, I can express my love easily enough. My dad asked what she was doing, and then she said what she had expected for the wedding. She said, "Clearly Kez didn't love me when we got married, because she didn't make a point of expressing or showing acceptance of me at the wedding." Then she said she had expected some kind of grand gesture of acceptance and love, because she was becoming my new mother figure, and thought I'd be glad to have someone else for the girl stuff. My dad asked where all this came from, and she admitted she had held it against me since the wedding. When it was just me and her, she told me I could apologize and it would start to make up for it. But I told her there should have been zero expectation for me to do anything like that, and I wasn't apologizing for something I never agreed to or even suggested I do. Then she said, "So you still don't love me?" I grew frustrated and told her she had way too high expectations for what I'd do for her. I pointed out that I had known her for only a few months when she married my dad. Her grudge has now grown because I didn't do the grand gesture and didn't apologize years later. She said I'm disrespecting her and her marriage with my dad. Am I the a-hole? Your dad's wife is out of order. Hold a grudge because a teenager who lost her mom didn't give her a grand gesture? Is she a narcissist or simply delulu? As long as you were not disrespectful or rude all this time, there is nothing to apologize for. Not the a-hole. Very high expectations from what I can tell. The whole mother figure thing too, because I never said she was one to me. I don't think my dad ever has either, but she assumed I'd look at her as one. I've been polite and friendly with her. I wouldn't say she's my favorite person, but I made the effort to have a good relationship. She did this on a day that you were using to remember your mom. I would tell your dad to keep his wife in check, or they can stay the heck home. Like what? She did. We got together with a bunch of mom's family and some friends to celebrate mom, and then she just wouldn't shut up about what I failed to do for her. And none of your mom's family stopped her? They couldn't stop her, but they did speak up and tell her she was wrong and that it wasn't the time or place for any issues she had. They also pointed out that I was 16 when she married my dad and should not have had those expectations placed on my shoulders. Am I the a-hole for giving my dad a list for his 50th birthday of all the times he made me miss my activities so his wife's kids wouldn't miss theirs? My dad turned 50 last week. His wife was on my 17 mail case to write a nice card and pick out a present for him. So I gave him the list I wrote to keep track of all the times he made me miss extracurricular activities so her kids wouldn't miss theirs. That was my present for him. I didn't even get a card or write in one. That was my gift to him. I knew it was going to piss him and his wife off, but I kept track of that stuff, and it has always bothered me because he became such a lazy dad to me when he started dating his wife. They asked me what the heck kind of milestone present that was, and I told them it was the gift of having his eyes open to the way he prioritized her kids over me. She told me it was so incredibly arrogant to keep a list like that and obsess over the times he did something to show her kids he cared. I told her he could have figured out a way to do nice things for both of us, but as soon as they met, he cared more about her and proving himself to her than he did about being a good dad. For background, my mom isn't around. Don't know why. My dad never gave me an answer about what happened to her. I only remember him though, and he met his wife when I was 7. They dated for years without living together. But starting all the way back then, he would get me kicked out of activities for no-shows because he said he'd take his wife's kids to theirs. And for some reason, he couldn't get all 3 of us to our activities. Dad had me in football from 5 to 7. I got kicked off the team after 6 no-shows without explanation. Each of those times was because he dropped her kids off at theirs and said he didn't have time to drop me off at mine. Then he had me in karate. I went for a month, and then he didn't take me for 2 months. They told him I couldn't go back if I wasn't going to be there every week because there was no way for me to learn. He signed me up for another football team, and the same thing happened. He didn't take me to one of the games and several practices, so I got kicked. I asked for art classes, and he said, "Sure, that'll keep you busy and out of my hair." I lasted 4 months in those classes, before several no-shows meant they told Dad I couldn't come back because I was missing important lessons. He signed me up for basketball. Same thing happened. I only went once though. Swimming was the same, and the last time I did get to go, he didn't pick me up on time. I got into dance classes when I was 14 and thought, this can work, I'll walk. But then he'd pick me up and say he'd drop me, but then he wouldn't. And I didn't get to connect with anyone to get to ride off their parents because I wasn't in dance long enough. Instead of being at something for me, I had to sit in the car or watch his wife's kids do their stuff. The kid he dropped off last is the one he stayed to watch or parked outside the activity of. And they had loads of activities. My dad and his wife only moved in together when I was 14, so he was doing all this for kids he didn't live with and screwing me over in the process. Then he refused to pay for anything because he decided to take over paying for his wife's kids. I hold it against him. And yeah, I tried to talk to him in a calm and mature way, but he brushed me off. So I resented him more for it. I told his wife when she whined at me for my attitude, and she was like, "So what?" That told me all I needed to know. But the birthday thing, I gave him the list and they made a big deal out of it. But instead of giving me the cold shoulder, they decided to bring it up multiple times since, and they've complained so much that I'm tired of hearing it. I told them I didn't care about my dad's birthday or his feelings because he won't confront that he didn't deserve anything from me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, I'm sorry OP. This sounds heartbreaking. Your father is incredibly selfish. If you haven't already started, please start saving money to move out once you turn 18. I don't think your father will support you financially looking at a streak. I started saving when I turned 16. I wanted to be able to get the heck out at 18 and knew I needed money to stand a chance. Make sure that money's safe and somewhere they don't know about. It's in a bank account he doesn't know about. That is a very smart move. If you didn't, he would probably use your money on her kids. He'd use the money on her kids, or to make me pay him back for the stuff he signed me up for since I got kicked out of them all. Might not have been my fault, but it still happened. Next story. Am I the a-hole for never inviting my stepsister to my paternal grandparents' house when I know they make the most of their time with me and my brother? My family is blended. My mom has me, 16 female, and my brother, 19 male. My stepdad has my 3 stepbrothers, 17, 12, and 11, and my 15-year-old stepsister. My mom and stepdad were both widowed when they met. I was 3 when my dad died, and my brother was 6. We were 6 and 9 when mom remarried. My mom and dad's family never got along, and when she started dating my stepdad, she tried to cut us off from our dad's whole family, which forced my grandparents to fight for grandparents' rights, and they won 3 days a month of visitation. The visitation has always been a touchy subject with my mom and stepdad. They don't like that we have access to a whole bunch of family who only included me and my brother. It was worse when my grandma and aunts would take me and my girl cousins out for girly days. My stepsister started getting jealous because we're not close anyway, and then I was doing girly stuff she always wanted to do with me with others. I just never wanted to do girly stuff with her. She had no real sisters either, so she got tired of it being mostly boys. And I always loved having a brother, so I didn't miss the sisters' stuff like she did. Our grandparents, and dad's side in general, did other stuff with us. Trips to the beach, taking us to nice restaurants, amusement parks, and other fun stuff. They bought us stuff too, but mostly they focused on taking us places or on experiences. We never invited our step-siblings, and my stepsister wanted to be invited a lot, mostly to the girly stuff times. But in general, she wanted to be included, and I never wanted to include her. My mom would bring it up to me when my stepsister wasn't around, and she would show her frustration when I didn't change my mind or invite her next time. Last week, my mom got so mad over it for the first time. My stepsister asked me why I never invite her to my grandparents, so we can do girly stuff with my grandma, aunts, and cousins. And I told her because I don't want to. My mom was furious, and she told me never inviting her is a huge problem, when I know how much she wants to do that stuff. She told me I don't do it any other time, so I should invite her for that reason alone. That I should want to make my sister, instead of stepsister, which is what I always say she is, happy, and I shouldn't make this a bigger source of rejection for her, but I could never manage that. She said it's cruel to know someone wants to be included and to never include them. Am I the a-hole? Tell your mom that it's her and her husband's fault. They're the reason the grandparents have only a few days of visitations. They are the reason for how things are. If she wants her stepdaughter to do girly stuff, then she can do it with her. Tell your mom your stepsister has 2 sets of extended family to treat her to things, both her bio parents' families plus your mom's family. That makes 3. She's not entitled to unrelated people giving her even more. Your mom and stepdad are simply cheap and lazy, asking you and your family to do things with their kids. I'm confused by this. Your mother, who didn't want your grandparents in your life in the first place, now expects you to include her stepdaughter when you do things with them. Makes no sense. I know, but my mom is like, well, if they do it with you, she should be included when she wants to be. Why can't your mom do all the girly stuff with her if she cares so much? It's not your responsibility even if you were biological sisters, and your paternal family has no connection to your stepsister at all. Because she wants me to do what my stepsister wants, and give her the chance to do it with me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for rejecting the names my stepdaughter suggested for my son because my husband and I know they're from her mom? My husband has an 11-year-old daughter, Luna, with his ex, Paige. There was DV in my husband's relationship with Paige, and he filed a police report when he finally worked up the courage to leave when Luna was 10 months old. No charges ever came to pass from the report, but his injuries were documented at the hospital at the time. Because no charges were pressed when it came to custody of Luna, a judge ordered 50-50 and didn't agree that Paige should lose any time with Luna over accusations such as those. I met my husband when Luna was 4, and I met her just before she turned 6. I knew going into our relationship that Paige was using Luna to try and control my husband. He didn't allow it, and he is so good at keeping all contact through the parenting app and not engaging in drama. But sometimes Luna will come out with demands from her mom and say that if my husband loved her or if he wanted her to be happy, he'd do something. These can be things like spending the night at Paige's house or having family days with the three of them. It's not simple to navigate, but my husband maintains firm boundaries and has Luna in therapy. He's had some tough conversations with her about her requests for him and Paige to spend time together and that they will not happen. My husband and I are expecting a baby boy together. Luna has been very indifferent, bordering on negative about him. Then suddenly, a few weeks ago, she told us she had name ideas for her brother. All the names sounded like they were from her mom. Her mom named Luna, not her real name, after a character in a franchise she loves. The boy names Luna suggested were all from that same franchise. The franchise isn't Harry Potter, but they were as obvious as Harry, Ron, and Draco as boy names would be. Then my husband saw messages between Luna and Paige where Paige was encouraging Luna to push the names and say she wouldn't love the baby if she couldn't name him, which she actually said. He saw these because Luna left the app Paige open on the family PC when she rushed outside to be with her BFF. So we said no to using any of the names. We told her we had a name in mind already. Technically two, but it's definitely between those. Luna said we shouldn't expect her to love the baby then and stormed off. She told my husband's parents about it, and they were mad at us for not doing everything to get her excited for her brother. They asked why I wouldn't tell my husband it doesn't matter who came up with the names first, because Luna should feel included. I told them it only feeds Paige's want for control, and our son's name is not being decided by the woman who assaulted their son. They told my husband he was being dumb, playing into Paige's hands, and alienating Luna in the process. I still disagree, and I don't want our son to be given a name we don't love. But I have some hesitations over this too, because Luna isn't Paige, and if she does want them for any reason, I wonder if saying no to them is pushing her away. It's so hard. Am I the a-hole? I'm sorry. What? Your husband's parents want you to let his ex, that assaulted him, be the one to name your child? Am I reading that right? How does that, in the name of the great Cthulhu, make a lick of sense? They say it's about letting Luna name him, but really it's Paige behind the whole thing, which is what we told them, but they brought it back around to Luna. Not the a-hole. Name your son something that you and your husband want. Ignore the outside noise. But I would have taken a pick of the convo for the courts to be able to understand the manipulation tactics that the kid deals with. Luna is going to need long-term therapy. My husband was able to get Luna therapy. He has shown proof of manipulation from Paige before, but it wasn't acted on by the judge. Once could be a one-off, but this helps show the judge that it's a pattern. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents and grandparents nobody invited them to see me get my award when they got jealous that I ignored them in favor of my boyfriend's parents? A few days ago, I, 17 female, won an art competition my school signed me up for, with my permission. One of the competition organizers came to my school to present the award to me, and a notice went up on my school's socials about it. My boyfriend's parents told me they'd be there and couldn't wait to celebrate with me afterward. It was huge for me because nobody ever comes to stuff like this for me, and it told me they actually cared about me and didn't just say nice things for my boyfriend's sake. He's also 17. After the presentation of the award was over and things went back to normal, I went to hug my boyfriend and his parents, and I enjoyed being celebrated. We went out for dinner after, and I felt so special. When I was still at school, I saw my parents and my maternal grandparents in the audience, but I didn't go over to them and didn't even look their way again when I saw them. They were jealous when I saw them again after I got home. My grandparents were still there too, and they and my parents asked me why I ignored them, and asked who I was with and why they were there and why I would leave with them instead of my own family. They asked me why I didn't tell them. They said they showed up to celebrate me and I celebrated with others instead. I told them nobody invited them, and they could take their jealousy and deal with it like they always said I had to, because I didn't owe them my attention for finally showing up. They told me the point was, they showed up, and I ignored them in favor of a random couple who showed up. I told them my boyfriend's parents had supported me more than them, and they actually told me they were coming and followed through. My parents said I was being disrespectful and not acting my age, and my grandparents said I should appreciate their time as they're getting older and it's not easy to fit everything in. It pissed me off, and I just walked away from them. Since I know background will be important here, but I knew this would be a kinda longer post, I wanted to write the current stuff first. So now for background. My family is blended. I have a younger sister, 14, who was born with several disabilities and medical issues. She was in the NICU for most of the first year of her life, and it was always touch and go whether she'd pull through. My parents and both their families always favored her and ignored me as a result. When anyone came over, they'd focus on my sister. They would bring her presents most times, even for a casual visit. Her birthday was a huge deal. She got presents on my birthday, and several times they brought something just for her and nothing for me on my birthday. Everyone fussed over her, and it killed me to be ignored. The little attention I got never felt loving. My parents could never find time for me. They could never find the money to put me into activities. They could never invest in my education or anything for me. None of my grandparents or aunts and uncles would make up for my parents' focus on my sister. I invited family members to school plays and stuff, and they were always busy. Nobody could come to any of the events my school hosted. My parents would never let me stay home those days either. They always said I'd be in their way. I always remember the time we made invitations for our school's music show. I was in first grade, and I made my parents, both sets of grandparents, and 2 of my aunts and uncles invites. None of them came, and they didn't even really read them. I found my parents' invite in the trash the next morning, and I cried. My mom found me crying and asked why I was making noise, and she told me I needed to lay off because she was stressed enough. I spoke up about my feelings a few times, and the answer I always got was that I was jealous, and my jealousy was for me to deal with because it was unreasonable. And I should be understanding and realize that my sister has needs that are more important than mine, and that their attention will always be hers first because nobody knows if she'll wake up tomorrow. Eventually, I stopped trying, and then I met my boyfriend's family last year. We started dating 2 years ago, and he introduced me to his family after we dated for a year. They were sweet, and I spent time with him, our friends, or his family most of my free time. I have a job too, but I stopped expecting or wanting my family to be there for me. It's why I never told them about my award. Am I the a-hole? What's good is that they'll soon get back wrapped up in themselves, and your sister and this incident will be forgotten about. Not the a-hole. I assume your parents don't know the boyfriend's parents? They don't know my boyfriend or his parents. I don't think they really know anything about my life anymore. Info. Where do you live and who do you live with? I live with my parents, but I'm moving out soon. Sounds like they think they can forget about the years of erasing you. Look up the glass child if you aren't already familiar. Not the a-hole. This is just another example of them thinking you should eat crap for everyone else's sake. I'm glad you found people who care more about you than your own crappy family. I'm sort of familiar from a movie about it. I can relate to a lot of that stuff because it's so like what I went through growing up. Even the parts where people wanted to act out for some attention I can relate to because any attention was better than none.